It's truly amazing how much adding one impact bat to a lineup can make that lineup just seem so much better. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. Mariners defeat the White Sox today 6-3. They improved to 55 and 51 on the season. Houston does come back and beat the Dodgers, so the Mariners will remain a game behind in the AL West. However, looks like Boston may lose. I'll keep you posted. Kansas City lost and Minnesota lost. I will start paying more attention here to the wild card race. So some good news there for the Mariners as it looks like they'll be 2.5 out of the wild card spot. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. As always, before I dive into this, do me a favor. The like button. I cannot thank you all enough for all the likes on the videos. If you can do me a favor and hit it one more time, well, I'll probably ask about 55 more times, maybe more if they get to the playoffs. Comment your thoughts on the game down below, and especially don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But going back to my original thought to open up the video, I saw the lineup released today, and I'm looking down. I go, Victor Robles, yeah, was in swing the bat well. Randy Arozarena's in there. And then you see it's like, okay, Cal Raleigh, Jorge Polanco. Mitch Haniger's actually been pretty good against righties this year. Jason Vossler's had some nice at-bats. Locklear's a good prospect. And then it's Rojas and Demo at the bottom. I'm not trying to say, oh, yeah, top 5 lineup. It's amazing what putting a Rosarena's bat into that lineup just makes it look better. All of a sudden, I'm looking at that lineup going, okay, I can live with that lineup. That's not terrible, especially if guys are getting hot and swinging the bat well. That lineup can play. And that's without Julio and without J.P. Crawford. Now, not quite sure if we'll see J.P. That might be something that's maybe in September, but Julio should hopefully be back in a couple weeks. So, listen, again, and it's the White Sox. 2 wins against the White Sox doesn't change everything, but it's nice to see the team hitting, nice to see them play better, and nice to see this lineup look at least a little more formidable on paper. And yes, the White Sox are awful, but the Mariners have beaten them up pretty good so far in the series. They've outscored them 16-3. And we've seen the Mariners over the last month struggle with some of the soft parts of their schedule. They lost 6 of 7 games to the Angels. They lost 2 of 3 to Miami. Maybe I don't know if I'm missing somebody else in that group there that they played that they lost to that they should have beaten. And listen, those teams are obviously still better than the White Sox, but you got to get the wins when you can get them. And the Mariners are taking care of business against a bad team. It's something we needed, right? I came into this series being a little nervous. Thorpe's been solid. Eric Fetty's been really good. And Garrett Crochet, who they face tomorrow, has been really good. I didn't think this was a guaranteed series win at all. You kind of drew the short end of the stick with the pitching you had to face. Out of your big 3, you only have George Kirby going. So a nice series win here for the Mariners, and hopefully they can finish off the sweep tomorrow. Again, I don't want to think that, like, man, Jay, you're kind of all over the place because 3 days ago you were saying it's time to move on, and now you seem back in it. Listen, you take it day by day. Everything I said after that Angels series still stands. If they don't make the playoffs, I still think there needs to be changes here. However, since that's happened, they have obviously decided not to move on from Scott. Whatever. That's their prerogative. We'll evaluate it at the end of the year here. And they've won a couple games. They added Randy Arozarena. They added Jimmy Garcia, who looks really good. So, like I said, it doesn't necessarily change my thoughts on it, but it's good to see them rebound, win a couple games, and hopefully they can get going and get in this dance here. So the last 48 hours have been nice for the Mariners. It's been nice change of pace from what was a really, really brutal couple weeks. Like, again, the White Sox play a big role in that, but you got to play who's there, right? And we've seen this team struggle against some bad teams, so it's really, really good to see. I actually think the offense may have been better today than yesterday in a way. They pound out 12 hits, 7 walks today, 6 runs, so they don't quite get to 10, obviously, but I feel like they actually had a lot more traffic throughout this game today. Let's break down the box score. We'll actually start with the pitching. Bryan Woo, 4 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, not earned, 1 walk, 3 Ks. I will say before I get into Woo any further, the Mariners defense a little spotty today. That inning where they gave up the first run, Rojas made a bad throw on Roberts' ground out, and not only was it not a good throw, I thought Locklear could have maybe picked that as well. Then Polanco had one go off his glove when Roberts scored, and Dylan Moore kind of hesitated on the throw home. There was a liner later in the game which led to a White Sox run that Polanco kind of dropped, and then there was one to Demo later in the game that he kind of dropped that I think led to a run as well. So some sloppy defense for the Mariners today. But Bryan Woo, listen, he's got to stay on the mound. That's the key. Bryan Woo is an exceptionally good pitcher. There's a lot of organizations that if they didn't have the pitching, well, most organizations don't have the pitching the Mariners have, but man, he'd be a headlining prospect. He'd be the next big thing in a team's rotation. But I don't, and again, I don't watch a lot of national media, but I feel like he probably doesn't get the attention because he's here in Seattle. And with not only in Seattle, but a rotation that's just loaded. But man, you're going to need something out of him. I guess he said the hamstring acted up a little bit on him again tonight. Scott said he's not too worried, expects Wu to make his next start. But I mean, it's every time Brian Wu leaves the mound, there is something. There is some injury that they have to pull him out an inning early, or then they have to monitor his pitch count and his innings so severely throughout his starts. And then it's like, well, we're putting him on the IL for 2 weeks just to get him right. And I'm not criticizing the coaching staff front office for this. They're probably making the right decision with Brian Wu. They've got to be so careful with him. So I don't think they're doing anything wrong here. They're trying to protect a good arm that's young and has had injury history, but when he's on the mound is extremely valuable. I don't blame Brian Wu either. I think he's doing everything he can, but for whatever reason he is very, very injury prone. And I love Brian Wu, but the old saying is one of the best abilities is availability. And Wu just doesn't quite have that. And even here, 4 innings, 70 pitches. Again, I don't have a problem with them taking him out if he's hurt and they need to, get some things looked at. But man, we've got 56 games to go here. A lot of games against Texas, Houston, Boston coming up. You play the Yankees again, the Dodgers. You can't have these 4-inning starts. I mean, unless the guy gets shelled, then you got to take him out. But just in terms of like length he can go. I mean, Brian Wu's essentially a max 5-inning pitcher. And it's tough. It makes you wonder if maybe the Mariners do need to look at adding another starter, and then you've got Wu there. And I actually think Brian Wu would make a great weapon out of the bullpen. I think he's better as a starter. That's where he should be. But, you could maybe use him down the stretch in that role as sort of firearm reliever coming out of the bullpen. And I don't think it's necessarily like oh my gosh, you have to go get a starter. But I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it if the Mariners, and it doesn't have to be someone, I'm not talking Garrett Crochet or anything like that. Eric Fetty from the Fetty, is it Fetty? Eric Fetty from the White Sox would actually be kind of an interesting get. But just an arm, or someone maybe a little bit more veteran experience than Emerson Hancock. Doesn't necessarily have to be better, but just someone like that that's pitched down the stretch before for a contender. So I don't know. I don't think it's like a priority because your other 4 are so good. I think you can live with it, with Brian Wu being your number 5. And again, this is not about ability. It's about availability from Wu. The ability is obviously there. So, like I said, I think you can live with it if you don't make a move for a pitcher. But if you do make one more move for a bat, if a team's got like a 5th starter just kind of sitting there, I'd see if you can get that thrown in. But always hard to judge Wu because I thought he was great, but just not going deep, into the games here. And it makes it where the bullpen has to pitch a lot. Colin Snyder gets a shutout 5th inning. Austin Voth with a shutout 6th. He actually did give up a run. I think that was on the Dylan Moore error. Jimmy Garcia looked fantastic. And his Mariner debut, a shutout inning with 2 strikeouts. I'm telling you guys, you are going to like Jimmy Garcia, a really, really good high leverage relief arm. That can come in, start an inning, can get out of tough spots. Just a fantastic arm that's really going to help the Mariners down the stretch. I appreciate everything Ryan Stanek did for this team, but I think you've got a pretty big upgrade there with Jimmy Garcia essentially taking his spot. Gregory Santos did not look very sharp in the 8th inning. Ends up giving up a run, 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, a walk. No walks, actually. Did get a strikeout and hit a batter. Listen, I say all the time that relievers are volatile. And what I mean by that, for anybody wondering, it's not that it's just they don't pitch a lot of innings. And over the course of a season, they don't make a lot of appearances necessarily. They make a lot of appearances, but they don't get you a lot of innings. So we're judging relievers a lot of times based on 50, 60 innings. That's like 7 starts for a starting pitcher. So they can be up and down. Like this was 1 inning for Gregory Santos. He might be fine, but this inning today, he was a little off. Even the fly, he gives up a fly out to Benintendi, was hit pretty well. Is it Baldwin? Is that the guy that had the double for the White Sox? Yeah, Baldwin gets a double. He hits Eloy Jimenez. Truthfully, a strikeout of Nicky Lopez was a ball. It should have been ball four. It was outside. Got the call. I mean, it was borderline at best, but it was a fortunate break for the Mariners. Just not sharp. And Santos really hasn't had a lot of outings this year where I thought he's been super dialed in. First one in San Diego, a little bit of control issues off the bat, but got it settled in. I guess there was one in Anaheim where I think he had a leadoff walk, but then settled in, got a strikeout, and I think a double play. So he hasn't been terrible, but still just hasn't settled into that like elite reliever role. Now, I do think part of the problem for the Mariners is that they have been so up and down that they haven't gotten that consistency of being able to bring these guys in with leads. They've had so many losses where, I mean, did Munoz even pitch in the Angels series? I don't think he did. Or he may have. I think he pitched game one. I think he did appear in game one. I'm not saying these guys should be pitching every day, obviously, but they're kind of pitching for a couple days and they're off for 5. And they pitch for a day and they're off for 2, just the way the team's playing. So I'm hoping maybe with a little bit more consistent outings and the team playing better, that Santos can get into a groove. Munoz comes in the 8th. With Santos's outing, they end up allowing Luis Robert to come up as the tying run. I mean, of all the things versus the White Sox, there's only a couple ways they can beat you. One of them is they've got a couple decent starters. The Mariners did a good job against Eric Fetty, and we'll see how they do against Garrett Crochet tomorrow. But Luis Robert is the other one. Yes, they have other players that can obviously beat you, but that's the one you don't want to let beat you. And Robert comes up with the bases loaded in the 8th, and you're thinking, most obvious grand slam we're ever going to see in the history of baseball. Munoz throws the wild pitch, but does strike out Robert, then works a very easy 9th. And in fact, Munoz only throws 14 pitches. He could be good to go tomorrow. I think you probably good chance Munoz is fine for tomorrow's outing. So real nice outing by Munoz. I know Scott went to a lot of his high leverage guys today with a fairly big lead. Didn't have a problem with it for a couple reasons. One, the team's scuffling. You've got to get these wins when you have them locked down. We're at the point in the season where I don't want the team getting super cute. You know, if they take Munoz out there after the 8th and go to Thornton, then Thornton gets into trouble. You don't have Munoz behind him. You know, if the Mariners would have scored like 4 more runs in the 9th, then sure, take Munoz out. But you needed to get this win. You needed to secure the series win. I know it's the White Sox, but you can't mess around right now. Obviously, you know, Munoz can't pitch every day, but if he's available and it's a close enough game, then yeah, I'm going to my high leverage guys. I'm not messing around right now. If you had a 6-7 game lead, yeah, maybe you don't go to Munoz there. Maybe you don't. Or maybe you go to him in the 8th and go to somebody else in the 9th. But you can't be cute right now, unfortunately. You've got to just go for it. And Wu only went 4 innings, which meant, you know, you're going to have to use some high leverage arms. And truthfully now, if you look at the Mariners bullpen, there's not a lot of low leverage guys out there. You know, even Colin Snyder, really good arm. Austin Voth has been solid. Sauce has been really good. Spire's just coming back. So, you know, we'll see how he looks. He's looked fine. The velocity's been a little down, but we'll see. Garcia, Santos, Munoz. So, I mean, you're going to have to use some high leverage guys in this game no matter what. So, I have no problem with that. I thought Scott managed it fine. That's probably what I would have done. I was sitting there thinking the same thing. Like, want to see Garcia and I want to see Santos and Munoz. Don't get cute. And it's not like maybe if they had pitched yesterday and the day before, fine. But they pitched like 1 out of the last 3 days. They were fine to go. And tomorrow's no gimme with Crochet on the mound. So you got to get the wins, you know, when you can get them. So let's look at the offense today. Like I said, 12 hits, 7 walks, did strike out 10 times. But hey, listen, I always say if you strike out but still get the hits and the runs, I'm not going to be too worried about it. Victor Robles, 3 for 6. Another fantastic game for Robles. Honestly, another quiet, just 3-hit day for him. Didn't even really realize until last at bat, and Goldie was talking about how Robles has a chance for a 4-hit day. Didn't really realize it. Just another quiet, great day from Victor Robles. Talked about it yesterday, right? With, you know, this was a former top prospect. Guys are late bloomers. A couple people in the chat mentioned like Jerks and Profar. A good example. I don't know if their like profiles are similar, but sometimes guys just find different scenery, get some playing time, and make it happen. And it's not like Victor Robles is just BABIPing his way to nice numbers. He might have a higher BABIP, I don't know, but it's not like little soft dribblers that he's beating out. There's been a couple of those, but he's hitting the ball with authority. He's hitting the ball hard. All 3 of his hits today, I thought were hit pretty well. That line drive up the middle was stung. He's had a pretty good approach at the plate, can get on base when he needs to, and he's adding good defensive and base running value. I know I say this every game, and I'm not saying Victor Robles is going to OPS 825 the rest of the way, but man, this is a guy you need to bring back for next year. He absolutely needs to be in the mix. I mean, I guess unless there's just a massive drop off the rest of the way, but he has shown me enough where I wouldn't even mind something coming out tomorrow where they've given him like a 1-year deal for next year. I wouldn't mind it at all. I think this is someone that I'm legitimately thinking Victor Robles might be somebody. At first, it was just kind of a fun little hot start. But I don't know. I mean, at the very borderline least, he's a guy that is a good fourth outfielder that you can play, 3 or 4 times a week, and you're not feeling too bad about it. The worst case scenario. So really excited. Take away the Mariners where they're at in the standings. Really excited to see Victor Robles the rest of the way here. Randy Arozarena in his Mariner debut, 1 for 4 with a walk, on base twice. Good to see. The hit was hit pretty hard. Infield hit beats it out. Then works walk. Listen, on base twice. I'll never complain about that. Welcome to Seattle. Hopefully we see some balls in the gap or something tomorrow and make an impact, but a nice start for Rosarina. Cal 1 for 4 with a solo home run and a walk. Nice game for Cal. The man of the hour, Jorge Polanco, 3 for 5, 2 home runs, base hit that scored a run, 3 RBIs for Polanco. I said it on Twitter. I'll say it here. I think we've got Jorge Polanco. I think he's fixed, or what's the word? I don't know if you'd say fixed or back, or he's arrived, whatever term you want to use for it. I feel pretty good about Jorge Polanco now. Ever since that road trip in San Diego. Actually, I made that video after the Blue Jays loss and said, I'm done with Ty, done with Polanco, and done with Mitch Haniger. Ty couldn't quite pull himself up, but Mitch has actually had some better at-bats since then, and Polanco has been red hot since that time. And hopefully my video where I kind of said I'm done with the Mariners front office and coaching staff will now propel them to a World Series. So I guess if this does happen, you're welcome. But no, Polanco's absolutely dialed in, and I've done a 180. I think he's here. I think this is the player you acquired. The defense a little spotty, but listen, I can deal with spotty defense when you hit 2 home runs and have another base hit, drive in 3 runs, and have a 3-hit day. Okay, I can't deal with spotty defense when you're OPSing 495 because you got to pick one. If you're not going to hit, you got to play D. If your D is going to be a little spotty, hit. And he's been doing that since OPS on the year is up to 633. All of a sudden, of all the qualified hitters on the Mariners, Polanco probably ranks second or third in OPS. But a really, really nice turnaround. Again, very similar to Robles, right? He's hitting the ball hard. His approach looks better. When he was scuffling when he came back from the IL, the at-bats looked awful. I mean, he looked like somebody that was just toast. Maybe I should have gone back and watched more of him with the Twins. Maybe that's just how he looks when he scuffles. But man, he just looked completely lost. He looked unhappy. He looked uncomfortable. And ever since that road trip, I mean, the guy's just dialed in. I mean, he's at the plate, and I'm just expecting something to be hit hard and for good contact and for good results. So I seem to be wrong a lot, but I'll go on record as saying I think Polanco's fine. I don't think you need to make a second base addition. If you want to get somebody that can play short, third, and second, fine. But I'm pretty confident that you need to be giving Polanco the at-bats. If he tails off, nothing you can do. But I think we've seen enough for the last couple of weeks to say Polanco is the guy, at least for the rest of this year. Mitch Haniger, 1 for 3 with a double, 2 walks, on base 3 times. Jason Vossler, 1 for 5 with a triple. He had a fly out with the bases loaded that Robert caught that was 100 on the exit velo, 510 expected batting average. Robert made a nice play on it. Vossler's been nice, right? Like, I don't think he's necessarily the long-term first base DH option, but he's had better at-bats than Locklear so far. So, we'll see what they end up doing there. But I'm kind of getting some Mike Ford vibes from Vossler. They're built differently. Not saying they're the same player, but a guy's just kind of hitting the minors, coming up and getting a chance and making an impact. I mean, the OPS has been 690 for Vossler. It's not like he's torn the cover off the ball, like 4 for 5 games, but every game he's been in, he's gotten a hit. He's just been kind of a nice stabilizing presence. And now with the Rosarina in the mix, Julio coming back here hopefully soon, maybe one more addition. I kind of like Vossler as, a guy that can hit righties and maybe be kind of a pinch hitter off the bench, in late game situations. I've liked what I've seen from Vossler. I've been impressed. Tyler Locklear, 0 for 4, did have a walk. Good to see. Been some tough at-bats for Locklear since coming back. I stand by. I'm still not against them looking at first base for an upgrade. I like Tyler Locklear a lot. I'm glad they're giving him this chance right now after moving on from Ty France. But I think I said it either with Mariners. Sir, I don't know if it was with Mariners. Sir, it might have been with the Collins brothers when they were on. But this is kind of a little bit of an audition for Locklear. If he continues to scuffle, now the trade deadline's in like 3 days. But if he's, doesn't have a couple big games, I think you're looking for a first baseman. Not a knock on Locklear. I still think he can be the long-term answer. But, I said it yesterday for the Mariners. They're in a position where really outside of catcher, center field, and maybe second base now, you could upgrade any position. I wouldn't be against it. So if there's a first baseman, Vlad Jr., that's out there. I don't know if Vlad is out there. I still maintain I don't think he necessarily is. I think that the Blue Jays would have to be absolutely blown away to make a deal. I'm sure the Mariners just traded for Vlad as I'm doing this video. But if there is someone you think can be an upgrade, go for it. If not, I'm willing to give Locklear, Vossler that kind of opportunity. But haven't been super impressed with the at-bats. But again, we're talking small sample size. Good to see him get the walk at least. Rojas 1 for 3 with a ringing double, just missed a home run and 2 walks. And Dylan Moore with an RBI base hit. You can say playing the White Sox helps the offense, but Drew Thorpe and Eric Fetty have been good pitchers. They didn't hit scrubs. The issues for the White Sox this year are the bullpen, which truthfully the Mariners didn't do much against yesterday. And even today, they got 3 runs off the bullpen over the final 5. So they did enough. They added on. But it's not like the Stars went 5-6 and the bullpen just blew up for the White Sox. They got to Thorpe. They did a decent job against Fetty. Got 3 runs off him in 4 innings. So, better. Good to see. Better approach, better results. Yeah, like I said, yes, the White Sox are awful, but their problems aren't necessarily when Fetty, Crochet, and Thorpe are starting pitching. It's bullpen and offense. And, the Mariners starting pitching's great. Their bullpen's good. So we figured they'd probably hold the White Sox in check. It was, can the Mariners score runs against these guys? And so far they've done it. And we'll see what they do against Crochet tomorrow. Tough task. Good news is the White Sox have been very careful with Crochet recently with shorter outings. One, probably just in case he's traded so they don't lose him and lose that value. And 2, just young arm, probably want to keep him in a lost season, not going, 200 innings essentially, it's anything like that. So we'll see. Hopefully just a 3 or 4 inning start for Crochet. Maybe the Mariners can put a couple runs and Bryce Miller can dial it in and get the Mariners a sweep here. Astros won today. It hurts. They were down 5-0. Would have been nice for them to get the loss there. But listen, you can't control other teams. You can only control yourself. And I'd much rather be here talking about the Mariners won. And yeah, unfortunately, Houston won than talk about, man, Houston lost and the Mariners lost again. That drives me nuts because it's opportunity to gain ground. If Houston doesn't lose another game the rest of the year, nothing you can do is what it is. All you can do is take care of what's in front of you. It's been a rough month for the Mariners, but a good series here, and hopefully they can finish off the sweep tomorrow. Go to Boston, with what is going to be a huge series in Boston with the wild card and everything. So very important series coming up. Good news for the Mariners is they will have Gilbert, Castillo, Kirby going in that series. So you got to feel pretty good for the Mariners, and hopefully with the Rose Arena here, the bats will stay hot and maybe even another addition before that series. So nice win for the Mariners. Vibes have been nice the last 48 hours. It's just been nice to talk about wins. Man, that last series was frustrating. Regardless of what it ends up being long-term, at least the last 2 days have been a lot of fun. So good to see. Hopefully they can get the sweep tomorrow. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow evening for the post-game recap. So as always, enjoy the content and go Mariners.